rapper Sean Diddy Combs.
Sean Diddy Combs.
Sean Diddy Combs.
Sean Diddy Combs.
Sean Diddy Combs
Was raided by
Homeland Security agents.
has been arrested.
Sex trafficking investigation.
Was just sentenced to more than 4 years in prison.
He was violent, and he subjected victims to physical, emotional, and verbal abuse so that they would participate in the freak-offs.
You're saying that there's tapes and they're being shopped?
Yes.
So like a catch and kill?
Catch and kill, correct.
Wow.
By 2024, Sean Diddy Combs was no longer dealing with rumors or tabloid noise. Years of whispers had turned into something formal, documented, and costly: federal attention. Civil claims and a public narrative began moving faster than any public relations team could manage. That shift mattered, because everything that followed the resurfacing of old clips, the asset reshuffling, and the frantic who knew what conversations only made sense once the legal ground beneath him changed. The first pressure point was money. Even before verdicts or sentencing, major litigation drains cash in ways most people never see. Legal teams, investigators, expert witnesses, security, crisis management, and an endless stream of filings add up quickly. There is also a second, quieter threat if prosecutors believe certain assets are connected to alleged crimes. Forfeiture becomes part of the fight. That is why high-profile defendants often begin rearranging their lives. In public, selling property, shifting ownership, tightening spending while insisting nothing is wrong. Then came the public obsession with tapes. Once a case becomes real, the internet treats every piece of video as evidence, even when it is contextless footage, edited snippets, or outright misinformation. Some clips are real but misleading. Some are fake. Some are authentic but legally meaningless. The result is a fog where virality gets confused with proof. That fog did not appear randomly. It arrived on a specific day in March 2024, when federal agents showed up at Combs' properties in Los Angeles and Miami, and the story stopped being hypothetical.
Hundreds of undercover officers in their vehicles and Bearcats. We got a tip and we're kind of standing by for a while.
More people coming out. Who's this guy? Yeah, they're all kind of dressed alike.
Definitely shocking and hectic out here in Holmby Hills at one of Sean Diddy Combs' homes. We were first on scene as it all unfolded. We came right in the middle of the convoy of about 40 undercover law enforcement vehicles before they even put up the crime scene tape. The Department of Homeland Security making a big bust, officers say, in connection to a sex trafficking investigation. While it was all happening, investigators were also raiding his home in Miami.
March 25, 2024 marked the moment the story left gossip columns and began moving like a federal case. That Monday, agents connected to Homeland Security investigations executed search warrants at properties linked to Sean Diddy Combs on both coasts. In Los Angeles, the operation unfolded in a neighborhood built on privacy gates, hedges, and long driveways, but privacy disappears when the government arrives with a warrant. News helicopters circled as agents searched the grounds. The footage looked less like celebrity coverage and more like a coordinated crackdown. At the same time, another team executed a search at Combs' Miami property on Star Island. Different city, same message. The operation was deliberate, coordinated, and clearly prepared for public attention. Reports describe a heavy law enforcement presence, with agents moving through the home while the exterior became a secured perimeter. Online, it looked cinematic. To anyone familiar with federal cases, it looked routine and serious. Another detail spread quickly. Combs' sons were seen outside the Los Angeles property during the search. Law enforcement sources described this as standard procedure. Individuals present during a warrant execution are typically detained briefly, identified, and released if there is no cause to hold them. Still, the footage became its own storyline, because in moments like this, even routine protocol is read as scandal. What mattered most was the purpose of the searches. Investigators do not raid high-profile homes for spectacle. They look for items that can be logged, seized, and later introduced as evidence: phones, laptops, storage devices, documents, and anything that helps map relationships, communications, finances, travel, and behavioral patterns. Reports indicated additional materials were seized as well. The essential point was clear: the government was building a record. Once that process begins, the question is never whether it will grow, but how quickly it will escalate. After a day like March 25th, the next stop is usually a courtroom and sometimes a cell.
Cassie Ventura, the star witness, the ex-girlfriend of Combs, who was with him for about 10 years, released a statement before this sentencing was handed down saying, "I am so scared that if he walks free, his first actions will be swift retribution towards me and others who spoke about him at this trial."
Sean Combs will appear in court with his lawyers. There are no cameras in federal court. He will be advised of the charges against him, and he will almost certainly enter a not guilty plea. But the key thing to watch for is then we'll have the question of bail. Will prosecutors agree to let him out on bail? Will prosecutors ask the judge to lock him up pending trial? That could end up in a contentious argument. So
after the raids, the next phase was not dramatic. It was paperwork, grand juries, and the slow tightening that often happens out of public view. In September 2024, federal prosecutors in Manhattan unsealed an indictment against Sean Diddy Combs, accusing him of running a criminal enterprise that allegedly used power, money, and intimidation to arrange sexual encounters and silence individuals afterward. The charges were expansive, including racketeering, sex trafficking allegations, and forced labor claims. The scope of the indictment appeared designed to surround the defendant on all sides, not just one. Combs was arrested in New York and entered the federal system. The immediate legal battle centered on detention. His attorneys argued for release. While the case proceeded, prosecutors argued against it. Judges weighed flight risk, potential witness interference, and the seriousness of the allegations in that early fight. The government prevailed. Combs remained detained at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. As months passed, motions accumulated and the case moved toward trial. That period reshaped everything around him. Celebrity life depends on access phones, travel, meetings, rapid decisions, and immediate resources. Incarceration reverses all of that. Communication becomes limited and monitored. Decisions must pass through attorneys. Even basic logistics turn into formal requests that can be delayed or denied. While the outside world continues, the person at the center can only respond through a narrow channel. By mid-2025, the case reached a jury. The outcome did not match the most extreme public expectations, but it was not an exoneration. Combs was convicted on counts related to transporting individuals for prostitution, while being acquitted of the most serious charges prosecutors had pursued. In October 2025, he was sentenced to a little over 4 years in federal prison and ordered to pay a substantial fine. Following sentencing, Combs was transferred from Brooklyn to FCI Fort Dix in New Jersey, a low-security federal facility, to serve the remainder of his sentence. Once that transfer became official, the internet responded predictably. Incarceration became a catalyst for resurfaced footage, alleged leaks, and recycled clips that were quickly labeled as proof. That was the moment the so-called tapes began dominating the conversation.
I'm going to take your souls. We have the power. We decide what's hot. If we don't go, nobody goes. If we don't support, nobody supports. We control what's cool. We control what's hot. We control what your kids listen to, what they dance to. We control what's in video games. We control how they wear their pants, sag their pants. We control everything.
Once sentencing became real, the internet treated it like a starter pistol overnight. Everything turned into a tape. Old party clips were reposted as if they were newly discovered evidence. Random audio snippets circulated with captions that claimed far more than the recordings could support. Even harmless footage, a red carpet moment, a joke on stage, a behind-the-scenes prayer began to be read as coded confession. That is the trap of viral material. Courts deal in chains of custody, timelines, and authentication. The internet deals in vibes. And when people sense that a powerful figure is finally vulnerable, vibes get promoted to facts in comment sections. Some of the footage that spread was reported as authentic clips from the mid-2000s, allegedly filmed around major weekends like award show after parties and Super Bowl events. Reporting described a two-phase party structure. A list guessed early, then a very different scene once. Cameras and high-profile faces cleared out. The claim was not just that things got wild, but that some footage might align with allegations prosecutors were already examining. That gap is still far from proof, but it explains why those clips resurfaced as if they were new. Then came the stories about tapes being sold. Multiple people repeated claims that footage was being privately shopped, a practice often called catch and kill, where material is offered to those featured in it before going public. Some of these claims were reported, others unconfirmed. They spread because fear of exposure creates a market on its own. Other clips went viral simply because they were awkward, not because they proved anything. A karaoke moment, a speech at a celebrity event that felt darker on rewatch. A party video where someone looked unwell and the room treated it as a joke. None of this convicts anyone on its own, but it does something else. It shapes what the public decides to believe, and once that belief hardens, the next wave is not video at all. It is people who knew him, choosing their words carefully in public and hinting that the story is larger than one man.
Aubrey O'Day revealed she will not be testifying at her former mentor, Sean Diddy Combs' sex trafficking trial.
And it's not something that you go announce. It's not something that you frolic around about. You definitely don't speak about it.
That's one thing we can make clear.
But
I don't have to have you here. I'm trying.
Why do you have me here?
I have you here because I feel you talented. But don't get it twisted. I'm starting to think about why do I have you here.
I'm not getting
okay, so you clear on that though. Check this out. You clear on that. You understand now. I'm asking myself, why do I have you here? So I'll move on to something else. I'll give you the answer soon. All right? And you may not be here then.
Okay. Before it gets to that.
And anybody want to go with you, they could go too.
Aubrey O'Day occupies a rare position in this story. She was close enough to live inside Sean Diddy Combs' orbit, yet distant enough now to speak as an outsider. As the case moved from raids to indictment, her voice resurfaced in the same places where public attention had shifted: podcasts, short clips, headlines, and reaction videos. In May 2025, as the trial unfolded, O'Day launched a show with journalists Amy Robach and T.J. Holmes. She framed the moment not as vindication, but as a long-delayed reckoning. Her point was straightforward. She had spoken about her experiences for years, and only now were people willing to listen, not because the harm was new, but because the spotlight finally was. She also drew a distinction the internet often ignores. She said she was not there to testify, and emphasized that not every witness belongs on a federal stand. At the same time, she confirmed she had been contacted by Homeland Security and had met with investigators. That detail mattered, because it suggested authorities were casting a wide net for patterns and corroboration, not just relying on a few headline names. When the verdict came in July 2025, guilty on counts related to transporting individuals for prostitution, acquitted on the most serious charges, her reaction went viral for a different reason. She did not sound triumphant. She sounded shaken. She spoke about how the outcome might land on those who testified, especially Cassie Ventura. The message beneath her emotion was clear. A court can follow the law and still leave survivors feeling that the full truth never made it into the final accounting. That perspective extends beyond one case. It highlights the gap between what the public thinks a verdict represents and what victims often experience afterward. Legal outcomes do not automatically create closure or accountability, and they rarely dismantle an industry culture that rewards silence. Once that gap is acknowledged, a new question emerges. If the system only reveals part of what happened, what does the public do with the rest? One of the strangest signs of a high-profile collapse is where the first cracks appear. Often, they show up not in court but in invoices. In early January 2026, reports circulated that people connected to Combs' daily operations staff, contractors, and support personnel were saying they were not being paid while he was in federal custody. The story spread quickly because it felt small but signaled something larger. When money flow becomes unpredictable, everyone around a powerful figure starts looking for an exit. His representatives pushed back, insisting personnel and attorneys were being paid, that no one was walking away, and that Combs still controlled his finances. On paper, it was a clean denial. In practice, situations like this are rarely that simple. They often come down to timing, approvals, and who has authority to sign off. That is where TriStar Sports and Entertainment entered the conversation. The business management firm widely reported to be overseeing financial operations during his incarceration. Reporting framed TriStar less as a bookkeeping service and more as a gatekeeper. Expenses were not simply paid, they were submitted, reviewed, and approved, sometimes slowly, sometimes not at all. For staffers, delays feel personal, even when they are procedural. Rent, bills, and family obligations do not pause for internal reviews for those accustomed to a celebrity machine built on speed private flights. Last-minute decisions, instant solutions. A controlled spending process can feel like a lock turning. Reports also claim that even family members had to request funds through the same system, suggesting a household once built on immediate access was now operating on permissions. Whether every detail was accurate or not, perception alone mattered. It painted a picture of power shrinking, not just legally, but practically. That is how these stories accelerate. First come the raids, then detention, then a verdict. After that, the ecosystem around the defendant begins to wobble until the public has something to watch. Which is why the next wave was not about bank accounts at all. It was about old footage, specific dates, and the claim that certain nights in 2004 and 2005 were not just wild parties, but a record.
I am the fucking hardest hustler in the world. This is Savage Part 2. Don't tell me about shit. It's 2022 and I'm still a savage. Whatever I want, I get. Whenever I want, I fucking get.
What pulled the story back into the mid-2000s was not nostalgia, but the way certain outlets and online accounts began attaching dates, locations, and recognizable details to old footage, turning random party clips into claims of this happened. On this specific night, reports describe videos allegedly filmed around 2004 and 2005, tied to major cultural weekends, award show after parties, and Super Bowl season events. The claim was not just that the scenes were chaotic, but that the footage appeared to show a party changing shape after high-profile guests cleared out. There was a public-facing version first, and then a later, private version that looked nothing like the red carpet image associated with those nights. In some accounts, the footage was described as showing people in various states of undress, behavior that appeared drug-fueled, and moments that, if authentic, would raise serious questions about consent and control. Another reported detail involved attempts to authenticate the timing by matching clothing and surroundings to publicly photographed appearances from the same weekends. But even when a clip is real is not the same as proven. A camera can capture a room, but it cannot automatically capture coercion, trafficking, or who agreed to what, when, and under what conditions. That is why investigators focus so heavily on context: who filmed the footage, where it was stored, whether it was edited, and what additional material exists that could change its meaning. What made these reports feel volatile was the suggestion that the footage was not merely embarrassing, but something someone might be trying to control, hide, or sell.
Can't reveal the person who is on.
No, I can't explain who the person was, but
High profile?
Mr. Combs was in the tape, and this other person is, I would venture to say, more high profile than Mr. Combs.
Really?
I also was just recently contacted by someone who wanted me to essentially represent them in the sale of one of the Diddy tapes, which I declined that because...
Wait a minute, say that again. Say that again, back up. You're saying that there's tapes and they're being shopped?
Yes, there already have been tapes leaking around Hollywood, being shopped around to individuals in Hollywood, but one particular person contacted me to shop a particular video they were in possession of, and to contact the person who was in the video to see if they were interested in purchasing the video before it became a public knowledge.
I've heard this before, so like a catch and kill.
Catch and kill, correct.
Wow.
Once the idea took hold that old footage existed, the next rumor followed almost automatically that some of it was not just leaking, but being marketed. This is where the phrase catch and kill began circulating. Traditionally, it refers to a tabloid strategy of buying a story to bury it. In this case, the version being discussed was darker: someone allegedly contacting individuals featured in the footage and offering a deal: pay for the tape now or watch it become public later. A lawyer connected to one of the civil cases publicly described being approached about a video that supposedly included Sean Diddy Combs and another well-known figure. The most significant detail in that account was not just the existence of the tape, but the way the approach was framed, like a business pitch with an implied threat. If true, it would suggest a private economy operating alongside the public scandal, where secrecy itself becomes currency. The story spread quickly for two reasons. First, it feeds the belief that powerful celebrities maintain vaults of hidden material and panic once those vaults crack open. Second, even without proof, the logic feels plausible. If footage can destroy reputations, people will pay to prevent its release, and if people will pay, someone will try to sell it. Legally, however, the situation is far more complicated. A tape offered for sale is not automatically admissible evidence, and a clip released online is not automatically authentic. It could be edited, staged, mislabeled, or stolen. The existence of a market proves opportunism, not a specific crime. Still, the impact is real. Even the rumor of a leak market changes behavior. Former associates go quiet. Social media histories get scrubbed. Past appearances are reevaluated. And the public becomes primed to treat the next viral clip as confirmation, which is exactly what happened when awkward footage involving other celebrities began trending. Not because it proved anything, but because it gave the story new faces.
I was fucking this bad bitch, she fucking me good, and every time was drove me crazy. I pulled up to her crib, I was in that 19 Mercedes. I got this bad bitch.
Once the conversation expanded beyond Sean Diddy Combs, the story turned into a scavenger hunt. People were no longer searching only for videos of him. They began scanning every old clip for anyone who happened to be in the room. One viral example was a karaoke video featuring Sean Diddy Combs and Meek Mill. On its own, it is ordinary celebrity footage a night out, off-key singing, and the awkwardness that comes with someone filming a private moment online. However, it was treated like a puzzle piece. Viewers analyzed facial expressions, body language, rewound clips, and assigned meaning to moments that could easily be nothing. That clip did not resurface in isolation. It appeared alongside renewed attention on a civil lawsuit filed by producer Rodney Lil Rod Jones, which included allegations involving Combs and several people in his orbit. The filing referenced a Philadelphia rapper described in a way that many online users believed pointed to Meek Mill. The language itself became fuel, not proof, but enough to spark speculation faster than corrections could follow. This phase of the story highlights a core problem of viral culture. It does not distinguish between allegations in a legal complaint, facts proven in court, and captions written by anonymous accounts chasing views. Everything collapses into the same category. Once that happens, even art gets pulled into the narrative. Old lyrics are reread as confessions. Past friendships are reframed as conspiracies. Silence becomes suspicious. If someone does not respond, it is treated as an admission. If they do respond, it is framed as panic. The speculation around Meek Mill shows how a narrative can expand without accumulating evidence. It grows sideways, collecting names, faces, and unrelated moments until the focus is no longer on what is known, but on what the public feels it can decode. While the internet debated clips, new images emerged from a place Combs could not control. In late 2025, TMZ published the first visuals of him inside federal custody at FCI Fort Dix. He was shown not in a courtroom suit, but in prison-issued clothing, moving through daily routines. One set of images showed him working in a media library connected to the chapel, handling DVDs and religious materials. Another showed him outdoors with other inmates, smiling in a way that confused those who expected visible collapse. Outside the prison, the financial picture continued to shift. Records and reporting showed that his matte black Gulfstream G550, a 2015 jet tied to Love Air LLC, was sold in October 2025. Its U.S. tail number disappeared, replaced by a San Marino registration, signaling a clean transfer. The image shifted from luxury to liquidity. Then January 1st, 2026 arrived with a legal reset in California. Assembly Bill 150 opened a 2-year revival window for certain adult sexual assault claims that had previously been time-barred, running through December 31st, 2027. That type of window does not threaten only one individual. It raises risk for anyone who enabled, ignored, or concealed misconduct. This is why the story has not slowed down. It has expanded outward. Whether the public is watching scraps, being mistaken for evidence, or only a fraction of what exists on record remains an open question.